Eva Louise Harris was the fifth child of Benjamin and Alice Harris. She was born on May 17, 1917, at the family farm in Lyman, Maine. The world of 1917 was a very different place than we know of it today. To really understand Eva's story, a journey must be made back into these times. Eva's story begins before even Eva was born, in the picture book town of Bear River, Nova Scotia. This town on stilts had been a place of mystery and intrigue for years and years before Eva was even born, but it is the place where Eva's story really begins.
This one is a postcard of Bear River, probably at the turn of the century, I'm not sure exactly when, and there's an X on it.
That would be where the Woodworth house showed then, a little bit across from the Baptist church.
So the steeple to the right is the Baptist church, and under the X is the house, the family house.
That's right.
And that's where Alice would have been born, close by.
Both sets of Eva's grandparents were extremely religious in nature, each in their own faith. Both grandparents lived in Bear River, one a Baptist family and the other a Seventh-day Adventist. They lived within miles of each other, but their paths did not cross until much later, when a son of one and a daughter of another met and married so many years ago. Bear River at the turn of the century must have felt like the very end of the world to the children of these families. Many set out on their own, leaving only the youngest to stay at home and care for their elders.
So go ahead, Mom. Where's this picture?
Prior to my mother and father's marriage, at a store in Maplewood, Massachusetts. It was an area that they were reunited. They had both come from Bear River, Nova Scotia.
How did they meet each other?
He went specifically to find her.
And why did he know to find her?
I believe he had romantic feelings way back.
Okay, now wait, because I don't understand all of this. But in Nova Scotia, I thought they didn't really know each other.
They weren't really allowed to be together. One was from the Advent Church and one was from the Baptist, and they were pretty well separated.
He knew of her.
Oh yes, knew of all the Woodworth girls.
And how many Woodworth girls were there?
Of which there were 10.
And Alice was she second oldest? How old was she in the lineup?
She had a brother older than herself. She was the oldest girl.
Okay.
So, Benjamin and Alice never met in Nova Scotia that we knew of, but rather met in Massachusetts. Ben ran a grocery. They then moved to Maine and began a farming life. Ben was not an easy person, and Alice, it seems, was pregnant most of her adult life. There were Bernard, John, Earl, and Lyman, all born within 2 years or so of each other. Eva arrived in May of 1917, the first girl of this union.
A picture of my brothers, Bernard the oldest, and John, and Earl, and the little one.
Probably 1915, something like that?
Yeah.
Or actually probably 1917.
He was born 16 months before me.
Right, and he's about a year old in that picture probably.
Yeah.
In 1919, Eva's mother Alice died on November 25th after giving birth to a stillborn son. Eva's life dramatically changed. Being the only girl on a rough-and-tumble farm with 4 brothers meant a new home for Eva. Several sets of relatives came forward, and eventually Eva moved in to become the daughter of Lorne and Eileen Harris. Lorne was Ben's younger brother. He was a doctor in Saugus, Massachusetts, married to Eileen. Together they had had no children, but could afford to not only take in Eva, but also help Ben out financially for a time.
That's the home that I arrived at when I was 2 and a half. My mother had died. Childbirth. It would have been number 6, and it turned out to be a boy also, so I still have the distinction of being the only girl in the family. And that was me with my doll and cat, which had a peculiar name. It was Lau Coppice, and I don't know where that came from, but I believe it was in a book that my uncle father read. The origin was Scottish.
For Eva, life had changed dramatically. She had time spent in Saugus, with side trips to visit her brothers in Maine. At times her brothers would come to stay with her in Saugus. Lyman stayed the longest. Other children came into the home as well.
When I was 13, Bernard came to visit, and he was driving a motorcycle. He pulled up to our house. We were surprised to see him. He stayed for 2 or 3 days.
So these are the early days of Eva Louise's life. More to come.